Flashbacks. Past players, past legends.
And our next guest needs no introduction. We've already had this gentleman on our podcast once before. And this was actually before we found out that he was actually in the Australian Hall of Fame. Football Hall of Fame. Welcome, Michael Aish.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Welcome aboard again, Aish. Now, we just thought we'd go through a few things. So, and it is a funny story of how you first found out. Fill the listeners in there with and what you thought was happening at the time, Michael.
Well, I was sitting in the office, got a phone call, and thought it was Patrick Keane ringing up about Gather Round, who he had rang me previously, obviously, with James coming over from Freo to play at Norwood and
play at the home of football. Yes, yep,
yes. So I thought, okay, and then it was Richard Gorder actually ringing, and I excused myself from the office and went into the store, and it was about 20 seconds in, and just all of a sudden it dawned on me that, hang on a minute, they're actually inducting me into the Hall of Fame. And yes, got very, very choked up. I couldn't really speak for probably about 20 seconds, obviously, because my thoughts went straight to my father, and he was good, and he just yeah, no, all good. And then, I twigged, and I said, oh, fan, yeah, okay. And then, probably it took. Well, then Richard said, he said, well, do you accept? He actually
Unfortunately, you've got to ask Norwood people that question, Michael. Yeah.
Apparently
yeah.
so.
Yeah. Yes.
So that was pretty well it. And then he said, look, we'll be in touch with you. And I think they were softening a few people up because they invited me to gather around with the dinner, and Gil was there and welcomed a lot of past players, AFL players, and mentioned me in there. So I think he was sort of buttering him up to think maybe I don't know, but anyway, it was very much of a shock, let me tell you.
Well deserved, and something we've been waiting at Norwood for a while. Look, I certainly know Michael Taylor went from, it was 10 seasons from when we first, as Norwood, applied and put in the paperwork, and Mike Colligan and Woody and the history committee were involved a lot in that. And I dare say it's been the same with you three, who are the obvious three at Norwood. We sort of all recognise that. But there's a hell of a lot of things going behind the scenes to finally get that tick of approval. And I certainly know with Michael Taylor, we tried to involve Gary Pert with Collingwood, and so it is a complex procedure to finally get the recognition. Now, actually, you had to keep it quiet for a fair while.
Well, they said, look, just keep it very quiet. Obviously, tell family, and I immediately told Pam, then my brother, my daughter, and that was it. And then about this was as I said, just before gather round. So
yep.
2 or 3 weeks later, Jesse was over from Sydney, so we got Carl, Jesse, and Joel and Pam sitting down with myself and said, look, we've got something to tell you. You've got to keep it to yourself. You got to promise you're going to keep it to yourself. And it was probably about 12, 15 seconds of Pam saying, look, this is, and Jesse just piped up straight away and said, can I come?
Yeah.
And he just worked it out straight away.
Yep.
So, so that was it. And then we pretty well, it would get out, to a few people, and they might, tell a few people. But I think on the whole, it's kept.
No, you kept it pretty quiet. Yep, there was little rumourings, but it wasn't certainly out there for sure whatsoever. So, no, I think you did that very well.
Nothing that we could have broken on the podcast,
not
unfortunately.
Not quite. Go through how the night runs, Michael.
Well, we stayed at the at the casino or the towers, whatever it's called there. I don't know. Crown Towers or whatever. So we stayed there. Got there on the Tuesday. Probably about 1:30. The girls take about 3 hours each in their makeup to get that done. We, the boys and myself, just lounge around, and then, just had a shower, got ready, and then we get up there about 6, and we actually were, as we were getting into the lift to go down, Sam Mitchell was getting into the lift. He was on the same floor with his whole family, so I twigged straight away.
Yep.
He's obviously going in, because I had no idea other than Bruce McAvaney, because I'd already mentioned that, I think.
Yep.
And so then we got on the lift and went down, and as we're walking, I see Stephen Williams and Mark Williams and Jenny, which we've known for years and played footy against them and with them at primary school. And so we went up to them and said hello, and then so there's then Enright and Bartel came, and then we're all into
Tom Lay's relatives.
Tom Lay's relatives, and then we're into a room, take a photo with family, and then we go into just another room for sort of pre-drinks. But then those that are getting in had a photo, a few photos, and then we they go into the night and sit down, and then start doing little bricks, starting to not panic, but starting to get a little bit nervous about the whole night, because
And what number were you up, Aish?
I reckon I was in the end I was fifth, or how many, 7?
I reckon
I was 4th or 5th.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
So you had to wait around for a while.
Had to wait around for a while, mate. So I had just some quiet waters, and and then just get up. You sort of. I had the phone call from Jared Wheatley, probably 2 weeks before, just to map out a few questions that he was going to ask, and then I didn't know, how they would go highlights wise, and I didn't realise they were going to have Barmy to speak about them, which was fantastic, and as I sat down, it was just wonderful to see. To my left on the next table was obviously the president, Paul DeLilio Fana, James Fantasia, Neil Baum, his son, I think it is, and Mike Coward, who we all know very well.
And played a big part in your career,
Yeah. Coached me at Pulteney Grammar for 1 year. I think it was in year 10, and being a mad Norwood supporter, and of course was a leading journalist, but also, I did the footy replays. I think it is back there in the late
big replay. Yep.
Yeah.
Now your speech, Aish, obviously with the makeup, they'd made sure Pam had plenty of red in the cheeks, because Now I thought that was a great line, Aish. I loved it.
Well, let me tell you, Malcolm, I think she sees it a little bit differently, but I know sometimes I think, well, maybe my memory hasn't served me correctly, but I was on the money there, I reckon.
Yeah, no, it was a great line. I thought it was hilarious.
Well, it's actually, you sort of think sometimes if you can get one away early like that, and you get a laugh, it actually settles me, and also maybe. Yeah, not necessarily settles the crowd, but it certainly makes me a bit more at ease if you can sort of get a bit of a gag out.
Yeah, and get a bit more acceptance out there. Yeah. Now going through the rest of the night, Joel and Jesse and Paul and Fanta right up in the votes for best and fairest off ground that night, mate.
Yeah, we finished. I can't remember what time it was, but we ended up, just mixing when it finished, and was very fortunate to Aish and Glenn Jack up and just say well done, and then a couple of other people. So just having a chat. There was Darren Chandler, obviously the SNFL was there and the like. So just caught up with them and then went downstairs.
Now, we dropped out there for a split second. Who was the first people you mentioned there, Aish? Unfortunately, your line dropped out just there for a sec.
It was Glenn Jakovic and Anthony Kudafidi.
Yeah, which is a great photo of your Colts with Kuda, mate.
Yeah, so we that was great. Had a good chat there, and then ended up going downstairs. And then there was Dipper, he would eat out a few. And I know from 1984. Then it was really Dipper and Terry Wallace. Got to meet Terry Wallace and Jason Dunstall, so that was good. But then met Michael Lachlan and Michael Long.
Yeah.
And just sort of, I just every moment. So we ended up meeting up just downstairs at different places, and then Fanta. I think probably got the nod ahead of Joel, and Paul and Jesse probably equal on.
Unfortunately, your phone connection is not great, Michael. We'll keep going. It certainly looked like Jesse was like a kid in a candy store there with some of the photos. It was great.
Yeah, look, they all loved it and wanted to enjoy the night. So, and they certainly did.
What was it like, being up on stage or having photos with, Bruce McAvaney and Jimmy Bartell and Sam Mitchell and Mark Williams, and that's just a who's who, isn't it?
Well, it was. You kind of think these people that you see, and then Mark was about my era, obviously, and then you've got the others that were younger, but it was, they're just pretty well. Not that I had big chats with James Bartell and Corey, but I had a little bit of a chat to Corey, and they're just all good football people. So, and Bruce obviously commentated from when I was playing, so got to meet him as well, and then just those other guys that I mentioned, they were good to have a chat with. Look, I don't you meet too many people in the industries or ex-players and that are knobs,
exactly.
Most of them are pretty good.
Yeah. Was Bruce a little bit toey considering he wasn't the one conducting the interviews?
No, I think Bruce is pretty good. He's been in the game long enough, and he was, well and truly worthy of being inducted with who he is and what he's done for football. That's for sure.
I admit, I reckon when I should have thought more of it when Barmy was all of a sudden over in Adelaide a couple of weeks ago and at Norwood on that Thursday night, that I should have twigged more and more there that's what they did there, the filming and that side of it. So yes,
well, I don't know when the filming was actually.
Yeah,
done.
I think it was done on that day. I reckon because that
right.
It certainly looked like it was inside the rooms at Norwood. And
okay.
Barmy has always spoke brilliantly.
Yes,
and Barmy, he's actually looking better, I reckon. When he first lost all that weight, we looked at Barmy and we all kept asking Barmy, stop bullshitting, are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. And now he does. He actually looks fine. And that was great. Your highlights, fantastic. As I said to you last Thursday night, you picked the wrong game, though, to take your best ever mark since we lost the 80 grand final. But that mark in the 80 grand final, how you didn't get cleaned up and all that is as good as KT's mark in the 84 grand final. And it was just, because we lost that game, it doesn't get played as much as what it should.
Yeah, well, look, I've said to a few people, not that something like this is going to happen again, but, from here on in, I'm bringing my own highlights.
I reckon you could have asked myself and Jeff Wilson would have been probably the two who could have produced it there, and Bob Walsh would have been the other one in that regard.
I think we might have to put some of those highlights on our Facebook page too.
Yeah. Look, Michael, it was obviously well-deserved, overdue as far as the Nord supporters concerned. It was other thing on the night. It was actually great that it was a South Australian night of so much recognition. And, Tom Lay also, I'd always heard the North guys and Nick Haynes talk about saying it's, and all that. He's also a past Norwood premiership coach, a dual premiership coach too. So it was good to get effectively a couple of bits of Norwood influence. Obviously, he's a North Adelaide person. Don't get me wrong there, people out there. But it was a great South Australian night, with Mark Williams, Bruce, Corey Enright. So it was fantastic.
No question about that. It was actually a bit of a surprise to see that South Australian flavour about the whole night. But and again, I guess, when the Hall of Fame started, which I'm not exactly sure when, but that to then encompass, like outside Victoria and encompass, the whole of Australia when it comes to the, Australian Football Hall of Fame, then I guess, you've got a committee, there could be, what their mantra is to, who deserves to be in whatever. Hey, I'm very honoured and fortunate that I was chosen, but there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, that in the end will probably get in there. Well, not, you know what I mean? It's
I know what you mean. Look, I think Neville's our. I actually think Neville is our next Nord. That's my own opinion. I haven't spoken to anyone else at Nord at the moment, but I personally, that's my own opinion. And that's where it becomes hard. Where a player's been at 3 clubs, you actually need all 3 clubs uniting to push.
Together, right.
Probably in someone's case where some people might have regarded that person leaving a club as, so-called treachery, whatever, don't push as hard, which doesn't help. So,
Yeah, no, well, that...
I was trying to get my wording in carefully then, Michael.
Yeah, so I didn't realise that was the case in that scenario. But, and again, as I said, look, if you really, not that you can think of it, but if you had a whole lot of names that aren't in there that in front of you and you could go through them and, again, it's all, I suppose, people will think, oh, him, yes, no, but there would be significant numbers.
As a South Australian footy person, Greg Phillips was the name which stood out for a long time there. I kept going, hang on, he was the Port Adelaide, he was the player who installed the most fear into us as opposition sides. How much time he stopped everything and that at centre half back, and he was one. Peter Carey was another one. We all know there's plenty of people who are overdue rewarding, but it was fantastic to get the Michael Aish appropriately rewarded. As you said, it would have been great if Peter had still been around to be able to celebrate it. I love what you said about your mum on the night as well. I thought that was really appropriate, and you worded that perfectly, Michael. So congratulations again.
Thank you, gents.
And also your promptness and all that. I thought he's going to get 8 million messages, and yet again, I thought it was a fair effort to reply to a message at 2:52 in the morning, Aish. So as always, you were switched on. So thanks, mate.
Not a problem. Thanks, Joyce.
Thank you, Michael, and congratulations once again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aishi.